And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. The big breaking news today: Brian Cody stepped down as manager of the Kilkenny senior hurlers after almost 24 years. A statement from the Kilkenny County Board saying that he was appointed in November 1998. He's led the Kilkenny team to unprecedented provincial and national success. He's regarded as the greatest manager in history of hurling. As manager, the teams have won 11 All-Ireland hurling championships, including a record equalling 4 in a row between 2006 and 9, 18 Leinster championships, 10 National Hurling League titles, 7 Walsh Cup titles and a Oireachtas tournament title. In achieving all of the success, Brian has created an unbreakable spirit among the players and teams, which has come to define Kilkenny hurling. On behalf of Kilkenny people everywhere, Kilkenny County Board extends sincere gratitude to Brian for his lifetime of contribution to the county and his commitment, the passion he brought as a player and a manager, working tirelessly with a single aim to do what was best for Kilkenny hurling. The board would also like to acknowledge the bond Brian helped create between team management, players, county board clubs and supporters clubs, as all worked seamlessly together in preparing our teams while organising and promoting our games. We are aware of the huge debt we owe Brian for the wonderful successes and occasions we've enjoyed as we watch the teams he created play and succeed. Wherever and whenever our games are discussed in the future, Brian Cody's achievements will be the benchmark managers will be measured by. We wish Brian all the best in the future. A few texts in here from our listeners. On 53106, Cody won 3 in 4 years, 4 in 4 years and 4 in 5 years. Some achievement. Any chance Brian would maybe consider a move to Mayo even for 3 years? Small ball for a big ball, a new challenge. Well, fair play to you for your request. Might be a difficult one though. And another one here: in my travels around the country, talk inevitably falls to hurling when people ask where I'm from, which is Kilkenny. I've literally lost count of the amount of people who have told me of Brian Cody travelling to their club to give medal presentations and refusing any expenses for his time. The latest one was earlier this year when I went away for a weekend to an East Galway hotel with my husband. The barman told me Brian stayed in the hotel, paid for it himself, along with the sporting achievements. That makes me proud. He wasn't perfect, Barry Kelly comments, Henry handshake, etc., but show me the human being who is. Thanks for everything, Brian. Lovely text in there on 53106. We're joined on the line by Brian Hogan, the 2011 All-Ireland winning captain with Kilkenny. Brian, how are you?
Good, John. Good.
End of an era, Brian, on our side, not only for the county but for Irish sport.
Yeah. He's been one of the mainstays over the last 2 decades in GA and in sport in general, I suppose, in Ireland. Where I suppose we're all just processing it here in Kilkenny really at the moment. The last couple of years there was, I suppose, idle talk and rumours. It's a bit like a player when he crosses the 30-year-old threshold, as I was saying earlier. Talk begins at retirement, and I think it was the same with Brian, and it was all just gossip, I suppose. But yeah, no, today's today. It's finally happened. He's stepping away. What was it like playing for him, Brian? It was inspirational, I suppose, in a lot of respects. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't take a huge amount, learn a huge amount from him, in terms of the way he went about his business. His imprint is all over the teams that he's managed, and saying like the teams are a reflection of the management, and I think that's definitely true with Brian. In terms of the teams I played on, and there's a number of lads obviously have gone into management now, and I'm sure they've taken elements of Brian's style with them. Albeit I'm sure they put their own twist on it. But he was an inspirational figure in a lot of ways. I think he's a lot of strengths. He's like everyone, I suppose. He's a complicated character, and I wouldn't proclaim to know him usually well in a personal capacity. But within the decade I was hurling with him, he's a ferocious competitor. Incredibly driven, and he's a huge ability to motivate players and make players believe that they're. I would have said that he'd make you feel an extra foot taller than what you actually are going out on the pitch. Massive presence within Kilkenny GA and GA in general over the last 24 years. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be strange next year, first game National League, going out and looking at the sideline and not seeing the guy with the peaked hat, or the main guy with the peaked hat standing on the sideline. What was it like when you came into the panel? About 2004, was it, Brian, when you came in? Yeah. That's right. I came in 2004. I suppose we were on the back of 2 All-Irelands, Ireland champions, 2 and 03, several insights, and I went straight into the team and thought everything. This is gravy. This is the way things happen. And then Wexford caught us in the Leinster semi-final, and it took me 2 years to get back into the team. It was back, or 2.5 years to get back into the team. And yeah, look, it was definitely, I suppose you go in, like any young player going into that setup, you're going in and you're taking it all in. You're kind of looking at idols of yours like DJ Carey sitting across from you, and then obviously Brian and the presence that he is, and trying to, I suppose, figure out what it is he's looking for. And you mentioned there, you read out the press release and the county board, and one of the words that stood out was spirit, and it's something he's referenced on numerous occasions and over the years, and that's something that he would have very much made a point of saying to players when they came in, is that his goal when he came in 98 was to make a spirit that couldn't be broken, and I suppose in business parallels that it's effectively a culture, and there would have been certain indicators he would have looked at to make sure that culture was correct, and that's no easy thing to do, but he did that, and was ruthless about protecting that culture and that spirit, and making sure that if no one or nothing disrupted it.
So when you're out in the cold for a couple of years, did you have much communication with Brian or anybody? Did you feel like there was a chance, if you hurled well for Loughlin Gales, you come back in?
On a communication side, I wouldn't say there was a huge channel of communication between myself and Brian. To be fair, I suppose Martin Fogarty was there at the time. Martin was a good guy. He would have managed a number of the lads under 21 as well. So you had kind of a different kind of relationship there. But no, it was very much figured out for yourself. You're there, and during that time, I suppose I would have hit, one of probably some of the lowest points in my time with Kilkenny, and you kind of have to just figure it out for yourself. He's clear. Look, I suppose what you do know under Brian is that if you get yourself right, you get your performance to where it needs to be, you have a great chance of breaking into the team. And I've fallen on both sides of that sword, and in 07 he was like, yeah, you're in, and everyone was clear in terms of what the expectations were, what the requirements were, but there wouldn't have been too many occasions now where there was an arm around the shoulder and an explanation about what needed to be done. There would have been certain times maybe where he would have indicated what you needed to do. Then it was up to you to kind of understand what he was saying and bring that to the field.
And then you did that in the 4 in a row. You won the 4 in a row in 09, and you were part of that. And that about being 10 feet tall, did you feel like even in those tight moments against Tipperary in that game when they maybe did more of the hurling, that there was something in the Kilkenny DNA that Brian instills that made you win that match and win these close games?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose maybe a bit of that kind of, not. I suppose there's a balance really in terms of how you manage players and putting the responsibility back on the players to figure things out for themselves and to come through, challenges, builds a lot of resilience, and a lot of belief, self-belief, and the type of players that he would have looked for, a lot of similar mindsets, and he certainly would have had had the lads, everyone kind of well prepared, mentally very tuned in, and massively motivated, but then he would have also, you don't last as long as he'd last in a managerial capacity without understanding, I suppose, when to hand over the reins to the players. I mean, it gets very old very quickly if it's the one person standing up in the dressing room, the one voice the whole time. And that was a skill, I suppose, that mightn't have been, appreciated outside of the camp, where he had that kind of leadership group and understanding and allowing players the freedom to make those decisions on the pitch if they feel it needs to be made. Don't be looking over to the sideline. Do it if it needs to be done. And yeah, look, those matches, and I'm sure Limerick, this year obviously coming out the right side of the 2 points. If those tight matches are the ones you enjoy the most, and the environment he created, really, obviously is well documented, the training, etc. They were the best preparation for, when you're in that situation in Croke Park with 5 minutes to go and you're trying to hold on, or you see it match out, and you've done it, in training. In the high intensity, I suppose, creating that environment so the players were, I suppose, prepared for it, really.
Is there much said in front of the group, Brian? Was there much said at half time? Was there much said after games when you'd won All Irelands? Was it, or was it just that kind of silence and the words chosen carefully from Brian?
Just different occasions. I can think of different occasions during my career where he would have maybe taking hold of things. The perception that he maybe would have been standing in a dressing room before a match or half time reading the riot act is actually quite far from the truth. I remember one occasion where he did take hold of the situation down in Thurles. We were playing Limerick in a quarter final. That was one of very few occasions where he said he was going to speak and no one else. But other than that, it was very much over to the players. He would have tended to have done his talking on a Friday night before the championship matches in Owen Park, and he'd say a couple of words in the dressing room, and then it would be handed over to the kind of the players, the senior players in the warm-up room before you go out into a park. It's them, those guys that drive it on. But there were look, he definitely had a great ability to say the right thing. I remember we drew with Galway in 2012, and there was that injury time free to level the match, and we came in, and there was a kind of this, the whole rigmarole that goes with All Ireland in terms of getting time off, the banquets, all the tickets, everything that goes with it, and there was a kind of a huge sense of anticlimax and disappointment, even though we drew the match, in the dressing room, and he called us into the warm-up area once everyone was showered and dressed and everything, and just pointed out that players play all their career and never get the opportunity to play in an Ireland final. You're living out your childhood dream, and you're now getting the opportunity to play the biggest game of the calendar year twice in 3 weeks. And I just remember the whole mood in the dressing room completely flipping. I remember walking out the door to get on the bus, and everyone was buzzing. Everyone couldn't wait to get into training on the Tuesday night. So things like that, I suppose, where just the psychology just switched completely. From feeling sorry for yourself to almost buzzing at the fact that you're going to get another crack at All Ireland final in 3 weeks. So things like that, But look, he was, as I said to you, 24 years is a long time. He's had several different teams through his hands, and generations of players, if you like. And I think, a bit like Alex Ferguson, I'm sure the parallels will be drawn, but you can't. One trick pony doesn't work. You kind of have to be able to evolve and adapt as well.
Yeah, and you would have seen both sides of that, Brian, in the fact that it was all about Kilkenny. There was no sentiment in 2011. You're the captain of the All-Ireland winning team in 2014. You didn't play in the replay. It's just, did you understand that was part of the bargain?
Yeah, as I said to you, I fell on both sides of the sword, and it's you knew the situation. You knew the way things were. What the bar was. It didn't matter. I was struggling coming into the first game. I had an issue with my back, and I thankfully got right the week before, got in. But ultimately, performance in the first half, I was disappointed with myself. But Brian is, as you said, he's not there to make. He would have said himself, he's not there to make friends. He's there to drive the ship and make the right decisions for the sake of the team. There was no sentiment came into it, and he made the hard call, and as is, I suppose, the case so often, he was proven right, with his selections. Joyce, he started the replays that are back, and obviously, there's numerous other examples of that. I suppose Walter being the best example in 2012, where he was selected out kind of in some ways out of the blue, but really he was being lightened up in training for us, and we could see it happening. So no, look, it works both sides. You benefit from it sometimes, and then you fall on the other side of the line, and on other occasions.
You're a Loughlin Gales man, Brian, and you see players in your club like Hugh Lawler, Paddy Deegan, Mikey Butler. They've been learning from Brian. I suppose that is a revolving door of elite sport. These are the new guys. Yeah. As I said to you, Brian is, I don't know how many generations now. The guys, Mikey would have been water by when I was hurling for Loughlin's, and indeed Kilkenny, obviously well documented. But he would have been, a chap when I was there, and a great chap, and so a different generation, and a different generation to say when Brian came in and was managing Willie O'Connor and Andy Combs for Philly Larkin. We were a different generation to that. So to still be able to connect with these guys and to motivate them and understand, is a skill in itself. And look, this year I think there's 8 of the guys will have experienced a hurling All-Ireland final for the first time in their careers. That's a huge experience for them.
and they'll bring that with them hopefully over the next couple of years. There's obviously several of the guys who Brian would have managed who are now in management themselves. So he's had a huge influence on Kilkenny hurling, and that influence will continue in the foreseeable future, because I've no doubt these guys will continue to put time back into Kilkenny GA over the next number of years.
Just to finish off, Brian Hogan, Brian Cody's legacy, it's going to be significant in the county and in the country.
Oh yeah, I mean, he raised the bar in Kilkenny. I think just you can't argue with that. We came in in '98. We'd lost to Offaly in '98, and he came in after that, and we lost to Cork in '99, and from there, we went through kind of a period of unparalleled success. There was a period there where there was kids in primary school who didn't know what it was like not to have the McCarthy Cup come to the school every September, which sounds crazy, but that was the reality of it. What he brought to Kilkenny, and I suppose, look, his love of Kilkenny hurling, his passion for it. He would have made no bones about the fact that there's no player or person bigger than Kilkenny hurling, and we're just passing through. And to make it's up to us to make his impact as big an impact as we can. He's certainly made a phenomenal impact, both as a player and as a manager. But and look, I think probably the fact it shouldn't go unnoticed is the fact that he's announced his retirement so early. I'm sure in the back of his mind he obviously had an idea he was going to step away this year, but to notify the county board before, and it's not even August, it gives them plenty of time now to get the ball rolling, get processes in place to look for a successor. The club championship is only starting to kick off, so the fact that he hasn't hung around and given them that notice, I think is also a reflection of the man, in terms of he understands that we need to get the right person in place to try and ensure that kind of continuity, if you like, into the future.
Brian Hogan, 2011 All-Ireland winning captain with Kilkenny. Thanks so much for your time to speak about Brian Cody today.
No worries, thanks, John.
Brian Hogan there, as Brian Cody calls it a day after almost 24 years as manager of the Kilkenny senior hurlers. So Brian Hogan, John Kiley, Nicky Brennan, James O'Connor, Cyril Farrell all paid tribute on the show. We really appreciated their time. You can check out those interviews if you missed them on the OTB Podcast Network, on also wherever you get your pods, and also on the OTB Sports app and on our YouTube page at Off the Ball. Just let you know, Cork have beaten Waterford by 15 points to 10 in that first Camogie semi-final. It is Galway against Kilkenny from 5:30. We got to leave it there. We're going to be fully across the All-Ireland Senior Football Final on tomorrow's show between 1 and 7 here on News Talk. Stephen Doyle in the presenter's chair. We'll be live to Croke Park for all the build-up and post-match analysis with Football Pod presenters Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. Aisling O'Reilly, a reporter on the ground. GA Riders Colm Keys and John Fogarty will also join us from the stadium. We'll showcase the best bits from our Guinness Roadshow, which is tomorrow as well. Be sure to join us for some great conversation and updates around the football final. We were meant to do that this afternoon, but hopefully you understand we had to kind of take a diversion and talk about Brian Cody's tremendous legacy to hurling and Gaelic games in this country. If you missed any of our football final preview panel with Peter Canavan, Billy O'Shea or Finian Hanley, you can find a podcast of that chat on the OTB Sports app, wherever you get your pods, and also all those tributes to Brian Cody, who stepped down as manager of the Kilkenny senior hurlers today after nearly 24 years. 11 All-Irelands, not bad, the greatest in the history of Gaelic games management. Thanks so much for your company here on News Talk on the radio today. We'll speak tomorrow at 1. Bye-bye.